Really? That was okay. Oh, hey everyone, this is Joe from ActionX. Welcome back to What's on the Tube. If you like my Santa Claus hat, I just found it. Doing some house decorations for the holidays as we're wrapping up the year. So, expect to see me with the Santa hat for every single episode of What's on the Tube going forward. Let's get down to it. I got a lot of thoughts to say about this episode. If you heard my ridiculous opening banter, not really banter. I don't even know what to describe. Before I get to do, you're watching What's on the Tube here on ActionX, which each and try-daily, something like that, I review an episode of a TV show, and right now I'm reviewing seasons of television shows. And specifically, you're watching this, I'm reviewing the first season of Nancy Drew, CW's Nancy Drew. We're back from the break, and it's hard to say this because I don't think I've ever said a negative thing about any show I've done so far on this on the show yet. So I honestly felt a little disappointed with this episode of Nancy Drew. I honestly did. And it was something I was thinking about for the past maybe half an hour before I'm recording this. After I've seen the episode before I recorded this. I feel like, again, if you have been hearing me for the past few weeks, I have been very vocal about Ace, about how that he deserves his own standalone episode. And I honestly thought going into this episode, this was going to be the Ace episode, that the whole traveling to the spirit realm was where we were going to get real flashbacks to Ace's past life, maybe figuring out what was his deal? How did he meet Tiffany's sister? How did they fall in love? How did he get in trouble with the law? Stuff like that. And we kind of saw that a little bit, not that much. And I honestly feel like the way they pulled this off was underwhelming. I feel like in the end of the day, I would call this episode underwhelming, but still was okay at the same time. It wasn't a bad episode. It's definitely the weakest episode for me in the whole series so far. We don't know how next week will go, and when we come back next year, it honestly did not for me. It was a bit of a disappointment. But before I get any further, let's get through let's go for the recap so you can actually hear my whole range of emotions going from beginning to end. So I think we kick off the episode with, we see Nick at the crash site. They're taking away Ace and Tiffany's sister. I forgot her name already. Again, the break didn't really help me out. Trying to remember names didn't help me out. But we come back to kind of a weird editing choice here. We start with Ace's car accidents, but before we really get to the meat of that, we have to jump back to Nancy and her dad's confrontation. Because at the end of the last episode, we were kind of we were going to get okay, now we're going to get the revelations. We're going to start to get more pieces of the puzzle, and we did, but it wasn't as I expected. Obviously, Nancy's dad did not react very, very dadly, very professional about it. He was very much emotional and kind of initially it's the whole stages of denial, he's trying to blame Nancy for you're not supposed to be looking into your own father, that sort of thing. But before they were able to continue their argument, George shows up and kind of takes Nancy away, tells them that, hey, Ace has been in an accident, he's in the hospital. It's kind of weird, we don't get to see Ace at all in this episode. We don't even get to see him in the coma. We don't even get to see him did he recover? I don't know if it was the actor's choice, because sometimes actors do put clauses in their contracts, or maybe the network decided, you know what, we're gonna give you 2 weeks off, because that's usually how long they take to film an episode. Maybe they negotiate that. Maybe the writer, I really don't know. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes for this episode, but it was just very odd. We didn't get to see Ace's, besides the demon face, which they could have easily just put makeup on that, CG did. We didn't get to see Ace at all, his current present self at all. I don't think at any point in this episode. So it was mostly and it was kind of insulting too, now that I'm thinking about it more, was that they kind of treated this entire accident as just plot convenience, but now really focusing on Ace itself. This could have really been a great episode to kind of grow Ace more as a character, even in if he's in the coma, which I know is a typical shtick where the characters in the coma, we get to learn more about them, and then when they come out, they kind of come out a little bit different. But not really in this case. Anywho, so we get back to the thing, and the police chief, because I don't know if he's captain or not. I forgot what rank he is. I'm just going to call him the chief. He's noticing some weird noises. Sorry about that. He's noticing some weird noises around, and he walks around to try and figure it out. And he thinks he sees Ace, and then he goes in the broom closet and he doesn't figure out. But Nancy does see him, and he's like questioning him, "Did you see something?" But he denies it. Kind of a weird like this town has been very more frequent with supernatural activities, and I guess I understand not everyone knows what's going on with the plot of the show in terms of like the civilians and stuff, but still kind of weird that not even the police chief knows. But anyway, or at least he doesn't admit right away that he has this connection, sort of thing. But then he's starting to noticing a little bit more, and then we get back to the claw where kind of everyone's regrouping and trying to like figure things out post the I'm not speaking. I'm not, my mind's kind of I don't know if the Santa Claus is cutting my circulation or something. We go back to the claw. And then we go into the claw for a little bit. Not the claw. So Nancy and Bess kind of split off, go back to Bess's van, which apparently got fixed in between episodes. We didn't really get to see that, but George is off having to take care of her sister, and obviously Ace is out of commission. So another weird thing, because like the last time we saw Nancy and Nick together, they just broke up, and it was kind of emotional for both of them, and they kind of like acting like it's just nothing. Again, the whole issue with Ace probably like, and everything else going on in Nancy's like, it was literally the same thing like in their breakup conversation the last time we saw them, where Nancy just has too much stuff going on right down her life. That literally, I don't even think she was even thinking about the breakup at all, because the way they were talking was like, obviously they're like, let's just not focus on the breakup, let's just focus on Ace here. I get that, but I haven't noticed. I didn't notice that many hints about how there's still like some still unresolved emotions there, so to speak. So that's where I was feeling throughout that point. But so they decided like, okay, it's possible that because cars are becoming more smarter, there's probably an auto drive feature there, meaning there's a CPU, meaning that there's probably a chance that someone was hacked it and tampered with the brakes. So that was a possibility. But they have to sneak back into the lot, so that required Nancy and Bess to kind of like do a distraction while Nick's doing the diagnostics. Bess is, I'm pretty sure, flirting with the weird, like, there's this recurring, like, police officer who's always in the front of the desk and just, like, doing paperwork and stuff. And, anyway, Bess goes to him trying to distract him while Nancy talks to the chief. They kind of compare notes for a little bit. Nancy does reveal that she knew that Ace was undercover for the chief. And she tries to bring up the supernatural element, but the chief kind of denies that for a little bit. And, Nancy eventually, they get the cue to, like, leave. The chief then notices, which again, I don't want to say anything about race because like I usually don't, unless they immediately point it out in the episode. I really don't like pointing out races. It's a little bit weird. I just don't like even talking about why I don't say it. I mean, I've already ducked myself upon in this one. Anyway, he has tribal roots, and so he has this connection with the spirit world. So he looks into his like private belongings of another officer, because I don't think that's his name. Then again, I don't know his name. So he looks inside a chest and he finds his the cultural garbs for his culture, I believe. I don't know anything about the culture. Call me insensitive. I just don't know. I don't want to say anything more because I don't want to say the wrong thing. But anyway, he finds it and he decides to sort of like reconnect or something with that side. But anyway, now the group regroups at the claw, kind of comparing notes what's going on with the situation. Nick realizes that there is a possibility that this was tampered. The problem is that the device that would have been used to like hack the car was missing from the car itself. So someone probably took it. Like, so they're trying to figure out who could have done it. But before they were able to continue, like the speculation from the chief shows up and kind of questions them about their entire what's been going on, and then Bess kind of spills the beans and reveals that they've been dealing with the supernatural elements since for a few weeks now. I'm assuming the timeline of this show is weird because like I'm so used to like the when TV shows like they make jokes about how it's usually like once a week they have an issue, something like that. So Nancy Drew's kind of like one of those rare exceptions where everything's so close together, because later in the episode we get a reference to Nancy's arraignment, which is like, we still haven't had this fucking arraignment yet. Like, this arraignment's been like talked about for like 5 weeks, and they mentioned it in an earlier episode, like, your arraignment's next week. So has it really been like just a few days? I don't know. And again, I'm not paying attention to the timeline here, so anywho, let's get back to it. So the chief, so apparently, before they were speculating, before the chief interrupted, they were speculating who could have done it, and since the only other person that would know about cars in Horseshoe Bay currently is Bess's new girlfriend, or love interest, or whatever you want to call them. I don't know their title. I don't know. So, but they were briefly considering that maybe she's the one who hijacked the car. It's a possibility, but then the chief showed up and obviously interrupted them. However, so Nancy and George split off with the chief to go back to Nancy's house to kind of try and maybe do something to figure out how to contact Ace or something, maybe try to pull him back to the real world. Meanwhile, Nick and Bess decide to go focus on questioning Bess's new girlfriend. We'll get to that. I'm going to do that one first because that's the more quicker one. Bess obviously calls her over, tries to like get a confession on her using a voice recorder / being recorded on a phone call. And I'm just going to be completely honest. Bess is very horrible at like trying to get questions out. She's very horrible. Like as soon as she mentioned the question, that like kind of blew her cover. Like the way you said that, the way you interpreted that was like, no, even if I was unaware of what was going on, like, are you questioning me right now? Like it was very obvious, and she definitely noticed too. And yeah. So eventually they figure out. She apparently reveals she's undercover. So again, another twist. I guess it's not really a twist. I mean, again, I couldn't. Like, it should have been obvious to me, but I really didn't know that she was undercover. But meaning, I mean, she probably did a good job or something, or maybe I just am very ignorant and ignoring it. So they figure out that she is an undercover cop. But meanwhile, before we continue that, because that's where kind of that was a lot later in the episode. They really were just focusing on the Nancy and the whole another Sauron's connection to the spirit world. I'm not sure how they described this one. And Nancy's dad immediately, like, coincidentally shows up to the whole seance, and since he's already in the room, he might as well just join in. I mean, it's called "I'll Come Back Later." They didn't really need him. So the four of them do the seance. The chief is the one like actually performing it. George is going to be the connection to the spirit world, while she's going to try and find Ace. Nancy and her dad are just there as to be. I don't know why they're there, to be completely honest. I really don't know. So George is looking for Ace. She thinks he found him, but she's getting like she finds this demon version of Ace throughout the black smoke that's around. And coincidentally, they're just using the Drew house as kind of like the spirit world connection piece, I guess. Budget reasons, I'm guessing. But George is stuck in the spirit world. She can't get out because of all the negative energy going on, and plus the negative Ace, or whatever you want to call him, ghostly Ace. I don't know what to call him. And the chief does say that no, the reason why she's trapped there is because all this negative energy in the house, because of your conflict that happened last time before the Ace thing occurred, is clouding the spirit world. So you guys have to resolve your conflict so George can resume her mission. And that was kind of the moment the episode was like, okay, this is obviously just this is only being done for the plot, to advance the plot. Because, again, I mean, the only real knowledge of the supernatural I really know is from Supernatural on the CW as well. And even I don't think they aired 14 and a half seasons, so I don't remember all the episodes, but I'm pretty sure they never mentioned the fact that negative energy from a conflict that's going on currently is going to affect a seance to the spirit world. Again, you just gotta roll with it, I guess. That was kind of like, okay, they're just trying to get this resolved now, because I'm pretty sure if it wasn't for that, this would have been a much more delayed conversation. Maybe I respect that. Maybe they're just trying to like rush things over for the mid-season finale, I guess. But what can you do? So they go outside. They kind of like get a progress towards the conversation. Then they didn't reach a conclusion, but they get to know a little bit more. Nancy reveals she knows a lot more than about his working with the Hudsons, and I believe yes. So the dad does reveal that yes, I was at the Bluffs at the night of her murder, but by the time he showed up, she was already dead. So at least that kind of cost him not really ease. I mean, again, he did lie before about having the dress as motivations, why he had the dress. So take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But I guess that was enough for Nancy and the negative energy to kind of dispel for a little bit, so George could resume her mission. She continues looking for him, and she gets into a spirit flashback, I'm going to call it, to the night that Ace's dad nearly died from a car accident, and I guess that was I guess what I needed, so like the Ace flashback, but it's not what I wanted. Like, I kind of wanted to see more. Like, they could have done this episode a little bit better, in my opinion. Again, it would have been more, like, for me, it would have been better if they had shown more parts of Ace's life and kind of cut down the whole Bess investigating her girlfriend thing. They could have cut that out, to be completely honest, but well, what are you gonna do? I keep saying that a lot. So the chief decides, okay, maybe you should find the 6-year-old version of Ace. Maybe that'll be enough to kind of reconnect things back to normal. She's able to do it and gets 6-year-old Ace and is able to come back to the real world. Whether or not that really worked on the real Ace, we don't know, because we literally don't see him. We did not see him for the whole episode. We didn't get to see, like, did they rush back to the hospital and check his condition? Who freaking knows? Then again, you could just say that, well, now I'm thinking about it, well, he technically was in a car accident, so the spiritual side of things, maybe he's going to wake up and he needs time to, like, recover or something. I don't know. So that gets resolved, so I think that's where they all split off from there. So George and Nancy return back to the Claw, where they, again, Bess and Nick, Bess just in general, is not the best at keeping secrets. She is not the best with a poker face at all. Because literally not even like 20 seconds into like trying to convince them, like, hey, we have a source, a private source. We don't have to tell you their names. Like, no, it's her. It's like, and then she shows up like, yeah, I'm an undercover agent, and that kind of like puts things down to ease. So they kind of like team up and they can compare notes, like, because she reveals that there's actually a cop on the Hudson's payroll, that's the reason why she's in a Horseshoe Bay, to kind of uncover this, kind of investigate into the Hudson's illegal activities. And yeah, that's kind of where we get the connection. So they all compare notes. Nancy figures out that the guy in the counter, the officer in the front of the police station, is the guy. He's the guy who tampered with it because of his boots, because George got to see a brief flashback to when Ace was in the accident. He didn't get to see the face at the time, but he did get to see the boots. He's wearing those boots. There's a lot of like shady transfers to his accounts. So basically, he got arrested. So fairly quickly, done and done. So they managed to uncover the mole. So they covered that. Nancy goes to confront the driver, kind of like, apparently they were trying to, but okay, it was kind of like another stage thing. Actually, they did a pretty good job. Like, so Nancy went to a parking lot at night to talk to Bess's girlfriend, the driver later, the undercover agent, and the way the conversation was going was like Nancy thought that, I honestly thought that maybe she betrayed them at the last minute or something, and the driver punches Nancy. And she drives up with the Hudsons. Again, we don't get to see them at all. They're literally like, it's just a blacked out limo. You're gonna have to assume they're there. Again, budget reasons maybe, I don't know. But it turns out it was all a sham to kind of like get the Hudsons like to like lay off the fact, oh, maybe they're not. She's not playing us. Maybe she is loyal to us or something like that. But she really gave Nancy that we don't get to see the bruise, but that was a really like sour sucker punch. I think from there. No. Before that, Nancy has a conversation with her dad. That's I think the last point of the episode. No, there was one more. I'm all over the place. I'm sorry. Nancy they have the resolution to their talk, and the dad reveals the whole story so far. So he was sent by the Hudsons to find her, and then he found tire tracks. He found the broken crown, and he found the dress on the side of the cliff. And in a moment of panic, he just took the dress. And then from there, he got the $50,000 from what we figured out in an early episode. But it wasn't like to be paid off for killing her. It was just for services he did before the episode, before that time period. And then Nancy's mom and Nancy, when she was an infant, all moved to Europe for the first year. Which, honestly, like $50,000 for 1 year in Europe? I think that's off. Again, that was probably like early 2000s, so I'm pretty sure it was probably cheaper. I don't know. But Nancy is not happy with the way her dad handled the situation. So they're once again in another like typical. They're not going to talk for maybe an episode or two, and they're going to have this tension build up. Okay, whatever. And then the last moment of the episode was George's sister, who was still in the Claw, I guess, still talking to Dead Lucy, or was it Tiffany? I think it was Dead Lucy for the little funny toy. Some mysterious person shows up and the door kind of takes her away. Weird thing how George, I don't know if she was in the Claw, but like, couldn't George's sister just yell or something? I mean, I know George is, like, with the face threatening. I'm pretty sure she could have kicked his ass or something. Again, we'll find that next week. George tries to look for his sister, fails, and, everything's on high alert. So, it's like, let's not worry about Ace, who's literally in a life. I mean, that's kind of shitty to say because like both Ace and George's sister are in life-threatening situations currently. It's just weird that I don't know. Whatever. That's kind of where we ended up the episode. Obviously, cliffhanger to get set up for the mid-season finale next week. now that I've actually talked about the whole episode, like, with you guys, I still feel it's underwhelming. I still feel like they could have done things better. I still, like, I know the undercover agent was, like, it was kind of expected. I mean, I didn't expect it. Like, I wasn't even thinking about that, like, in my wildest dreams. I mean, why am I saying wildest dreams? God, I really am tired. Just, anywho, so I've honestly could have. Now when I say I could have done this episode better, I'm not trying to talk crap about the writers. I'm pretty sure they're doing a great job. They've been doing a good job so far. It's just that I was really expecting this episode to be the Ace episode that I've been talking about for like weeks now, and the fact that this kind of wasn't, but not really, was kind of weird. Like, this episode was kind of about Ace, but it wasn't about Ace. It was kind of like we're trying to advance the mysteries, and we kind of sideline Ace through our life right in the accident. I mean, that was kind of shitty in my books, in my opinion. It's kind of it's weird. Like, and again, I've been trying to stay positive about like certain aspects of the show, like Nancy's dad. I was not a big fan of him in the beginning. My current stance, he's okay. I mean, I won't mention my repeated trope of when I started this review series. I just, in general, like, he did an okay job with this episode. He did an okay performance. I think the cast did okay as well. This episode, I'm just going to call it plot convenience. It's just advancing the plot over, especially with the mid-season finale next week. And I think I've said that like 4 times already, so I'm really like winding down a little bit. So anyway, I'll give this episode 1 thumbs up. Half a thumb, something like that, around that area. But before we wrap it up, let's do a quick episode of Joe's Mystery Corner with Santa Hat. I suck at singing. You're the High School Musical fans. If you haven't been watching my High School Musical, the musical, the series episode reviews, you're missing out. Now, do I say that positively or negatively? Well, go watch it to figure it out. Okay, shameless plug over. So back to the Mystery Corner. Where are we right now with the status of the Dead Lucy case? Because the Tiffany case kind of got sidelined this week. Also, another thing I forgot to mention is that I'm not sure they actually mentioned this in the show earlier, but like, so they apparently, Ryan, the reason why he's not in these episodes recently is because he's at a wellness retreat. I'm not sure if that was because he got like almost attacked by Dead Lucy or something. I really don't know. Could be for any other number of reasons, but that's why he's highlighted. So we didn't really get much from the Tiffany progress this week. It was mostly, I still think it's the Hudsons. And with the Dead Lucy case, it's still the Hudsons. They're involved somehow. Everything's just too coincidental. I forgot what movie, TV show, or actual real-life person told me this, but nothing is a coincidence. Everything happens. There is a pattern. There is no such thing as a coincidence. So, I mean, there is, but not really. Anywho, but so yeah. So my current stance, it's the Hudsons. I guess you can kind of rule on Mr. Drew, but there was like a moment at the end of this episode where I guess he was looked at briefly as a suspect, so I'm not sure if there was still like an unexplored piece of evidence we still don't have yet. But we still got like a lot of episodes to go. We still have, I think, we have 14 episodes left. We're not even halfway done with the season, so there's still plenty of time to get more revelations. But anywho, yeah. So that's the end of the Mystery Corner, and so far that's it. So what's coming up on 1 to the 2 for all y'all people? So next up is High School Musical, the musical of the series. If you're thinking about overall progress. Another episode this Saturday. Next week we have Rookie's winter finale. And then also, but if you don't care about those, you just care about Nancy Drew. Next week is the mid-season finale for Nancy Drew, episode 9. And then after that, we go on break. I did not read where the CW is placing Nancy Drew back on the time slot. I mean, I think they did already, but I didn't really read it because like they're doing mid-season changes because like there's new shows coming out during the mid-season, which I may or may not do a new series on. I say that very loosely because I have not at all started planning 2020 yet, so take what I just said with a grain of freaking salt. But yeah, so Nancy Drew mid-season finale next week. I'll still do an episode review on that, and then after that we'll be going on break in terms of the Nancy Drew episode reviews. I'm still debating what I'm doing. Like I'm waiting till the rookie Nancy Drew have when they give us the dates when they come back, which I'll talk about next week. And I'm also still debating like if I'm going to be doing any sort of what's on the 2 episodes to kind of fill in the time frame. In terms of like not really a buffer, but it's like there's still a lot of shows I want to talk about, but it's also like figuring out like, okay, how many weeks do I have before it comes back? What can I do? Like that sort of thing. So I'll be announcing those next week when we come back with the mid-season finale for well, specifically for Nancy Drew, if you really care about it, if you're interested in like hearing my thoughts on stuff beyond Nancy Drew, which I really hope you do. But anywho, another shameless plug over, and that's gonna have to do it for me this week because I kind of want to get some sleep. So anywho, if you were unaware, this was What's on the Tube from ActionX. If you want to see more What's on the Tube, please subscribe and ring the bell here on ActionX. If you really like this video, please like it. Share it with your friends. Favorite if you want. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for me. So follow the social media feeds. Keep up to date. I'll see you guys next week for the mid-season finale. So jingle, jingle, peace out.